Alrighty, today is a fun one. Let's talk archetypes. So it's super fascinating that we have all of these different aspects of our personality, of our soul, of our heart, all housed in one body. And yes, seemingly to the outside world, we have one body. We actually have more than one body. We'll talk about that tomorrow. But for today, we're going to talk about all of the different archetypes or aspects of ourself that are housed in our physical body. So, archetypes are the secret forces behind our personality, behind human behavior. So, when we choose to observe our archetypes, we can start to see these different aspects that are operating within us, right? We have different archetypes. There are four common ones, and then there are sort of the go tos that we adopt, ones that may be very specific to us. So, number one, first and foremost, as we move through this, the most important aspect or the most important thing for us to do as we approach this is to detach and observe, right? We'll do a whole lesson on becoming the observer. But for now, just remember that you are not what you observe. You are not the thoughts. You are not the story. You are not the beliefs. You are not the emotions. You are not the feelings. You are not the even the actions or the emanations that come from all those things. You are the consciousness. You are the awareness that sees all of those things. So really take a moment to step out of your body, step back, and become the observer as we go through this so that you can start to look at what aspects or what archetypes are operating for you. So just remember that if you happen to be operating in a negative or a weaker archetype, we do not judge. We have compassion for ourselves. We remember that that is not who we are, that is an aspect of us. And it is something that we can choose to try on or to turn off. And so just remember to stay detached and don't identify with any of these archetypes as we move through them. So, remember not to judge. So, Carl Jung described archetypes as the forms which instincts assume. So, that kind of means that essentially when we are triggered, when we become unconscious, we act from habit or from subconscious, right? We act from the programs that we were given as children and through our society and our parents. And so those archetypes can be more habitual. They can also be associated with the beliefs or the thought patterns that we have held historically up until now. And so, again, they will come out sort of automatically without our conscious awareness up until this point, until we become aware of them, we start to understand what they are, and we can employ them consciously. So, instincts are like biological urges, right? So, when we are triggered, the instinct becomes activated. It's a pattern of behavior, like running a software or program. So, we have to remember that we're all fragmented in a positive sense. We have different fragments of us, that we are not always one thing. We're never always, because nothing is ever always, right? And we're not one thing. We're not one personality. We're not one aspect of our personality. We're not just our thoughts or just our emotions, right? That we have these different fragments of us, and they are divided, and they serve purposes in unique situations, right? And if we allow our unconscious to rule us, those different aspects of us, especially the go-to habitual ones, they can rule us essentially. But we are all about taking our power back, becoming conscious and aware of all of these things so that we can use them consciously and make them work for us instead of against us, right? So, Robert Asiogli stated that we are not unified. We often feel that we are because we do not have many bodies and many limbs, but because one hand does not usually hit the other, right? But metaphorically, that is exactly what happens when all of these sub-personalities are continually scuffling and acting on impulse and desire, and some are leveraging their principles and values over the others, right? That they kind of go to war with each other, that we have these different parts of us that wrestle for control and power, and we'll find that they need to have their space, that each part of you needs to be embraced with love and gratitude, that it is there for a reason, that all aspects of you are valuable, that again, you are designed perfectly and perfect for your purpose. So all of these things that you have within you are there for a reason. And so we may not understand them yet, but we need to understand that they do have a purpose, and they are to be loved and to be seen with gratitude, so that when their time comes, they can rise to the occasion. So you may find that the lover fights with the warrior, right? And that the warrior wants to bulldoze everybody and the lover wants to love everybody. And so recognizing that these different parts of you will kind of battle each other if they're not given their space and time. That we can't be predominantly a warrior or predominantly a lover, that we have to be able to move and to ebb and to flow and to shift fluidly through all the different parts of us that are necessary for the different functions throughout the day and throughout our life, right? So some archetypes to think about. The four most common ones are the warrior, the magician, the lover, and the king or queen, depending on what you identify with. So those are the four primary ones. We'll come back to those, but other archetypes that you may embody, and yours may not even be on the list, right? It really becomes what is specific to you. Again, nobody has your blueprint. Nobody can tell you what's right for you. Only you have the wisdom within you to know who you are and what is right for you. It is my job to be your guide and to hold space for you, but you ultimately are your own hero. You hold all that you need within you. All of these different archetypes are going to be specific to you, and so it is up to you to be able to identify what you want to add essentially to those core four. So some ideas. You might identify as the creator or artist, right? If you imagine it, it can be done, right? We are all creators, so we all have that aspect within us, right? To realize a vision, to create things, to create value, right? You also could identify as more of a ruler, right? And that can, and some of these will verge on, right, negative versus positive, and it's more so how you employ them and when you bring them out and how you allow them to serve you and to serve others, and whether or not you allow them to cross boundaries, right, and to act inappropriately. So all aspects can be used positively if the situation arises. Right, so the ruler may be focused on power and control, right? They also can create prosperity, right? And to create success and even a powerful dynamic out in the world, right? The sage, right? It's the sage wisdom, right? The truth will set you free, right? They use intelligence and analysis to understand the world and to find truth out in the world. Innocent, right? There may be a part of you like that innocent child, right? To be free, to be you and me, to be happy, to play, to be Peter Pan, right? There's the explorer, right? Don't fence me in kind of mentality, need to travel the world, sort of the nomad, right? Freedom to find out who you are and to be who you want to be, right? There's the rebel, right? To rebel against rules that are made to be broken, right? To overturn the system that isn't working, to get revenge or resolution, right? Again, all of these things can be held within integrity, right? The hero, right? Some of us are overgivers and we want to be the hero. We want to find our value in saving the day, right? Where there's a will, there's a way. Expect mastery to change the world, right? Expert mastery to change the world, excuse me. And to prove one's worth through courageous acts. The wizard or the magician, we talked a little bit about that, but that's, right? I can make things happen. Dreams come true. Fundamental laws of the universe. You could also be the jester of the court, right? The comedian, the funny guy, entertaining, have a great time, lighten the world, right? Live in the moment, full of entertainment and joy, right? There's the everyman, right? All men and women are created equal to belong and connect to others, right? To be all about social justice, right? You could be the lover, right? You're the only one being in a relationship and surrounded by love and intimacy and an experience, and you're just driven by passion and romance and just nurturing and caring and loving on people all the time. That's definitely one of my higher archetypes. Being the caregiver, also something I identify with. To love your neighbor as yourself, to help others, protect, care for, nurture, hold space for, love on. And then who did I leave out? The warrior, right? The fighter, the survivor, the boxer, right? The one that's going to go to the mat to make sure that everything happens and justice is served and problems are solved and we get things done, right? So those maybe some of the few that you could choose from. I highly suggest that you make a list of what you identify with and start to consciously look at your actions and your behaviors as you go throughout the day. Start to identify, am I primarily in my warrior? Anybody who has been through trauma, which many of us have, your warrior may be your predominant mode, right? That vigilant, hyper state of awareness, always ready to solve a problem, always on, right? Never allowing the nervous system to calm, right? And we'll talk about calming the nervous system coming up here in just a couple more lessons. But if you're always in that state, that's an unhealthy place to be. That we need to be the everyman or the journeyman every once in a while. We need to be the lover every once in a while. We need to shift out of the warrior state and give our nervous system and our body a break, right? So start to pay attention to what are your predominant archetypes? What are you predominantly calling on essentially? And where do we need to bring balance to these other potentials, right? So the soul, there's buckets that we could put these archetypes in. We want to make sure that we're leveraging archetypes from each of these buckets, right? And so the soul bucket, you'll find the creator and the artist, and they're often innovating, right? The lover, it's the intimacy, compassion, right? The outlaw, liberation, right? To liberate us from systems that don't work, from things that are no longer serving us, right? The explorer, freedom. The soul craves freedom. And so that's a lot of us why we're here, right? To create that path of freedom for our soul to be able to actualize and to realize our highest potential, right? The self, a little bit more physically focused, right? On the physical body, right? The ruler, we need to have control over ourselves. We need to not eat too much, not sleep too much, right? We need to have healthy boundaries. The gesture, we also need entertainment. We need enjoyment. We need the spice of life, right? The magician, creating, manifesting, right? Learning how to work our Ferrari and bring things to us. The sage, in understanding the wisdom that's necessary to also learn how to operate this in this game of life, right? The ego, surprisingly, this one really shocked me when I first learned it. The caregiver falls under the ego bucket. And so that we really, especially as spiritual people, kind, sensitive, empathic people who've been through trauma, we almost end up hiding in this caregiver archetype because it's safe, right? If as long as I'm caring for everybody around me, taking care of my family, I'm being kind, I'm being compassionate, I'm giving, I'm over giving, right? It feels like maybe then they'll love me, maybe then they'll treat me right, and that actually does come from a little bit of a healthy ego in the sense that it's a survival mechanism. But we also have to be aware of it, and we overuse it, and we hide behind it, and that actually does end up feeding the ego in unhealthy, unresourceful ways. So the everyman, looking for belonging and bringing everybody together, right? That's that healthy sense of ego that we need to fit in our cultural surroundings. We need to be part of a group. We need to have a family, right? That's all a natural need for survival. We also want to be the hero, right? We want to save people. We want to master a skill so that we can help others save themselves as well. All of these things, again, with integrity, can be used within balance, and as long as they're not predominantly ruling your life, all these things have a place. Innocence, right? Safety, security, to be worthy, right? The innocent child is definitely part of the ego, in a healthy way. And so ego's goal is to leave a mark on the world, right? Um, Sometimes we're looking to provide order or structure through some of these archetypes. Other times it's for social concerns, to connect with others, right? All of these things are innate, natural survival needs. And so that's why we need to understand where they come from and when to employ them. And then freedom, right? To yearn for paradise, a very healthy, natural need for all of us because that's what we're designed to achieve. So, other common archetypes, I will skip the definitions here. I think they're pretty self explanatory, but the mother, the father, the servant, the saboteur, the bully, the weakling, the monk, the manipulator, the child, the king, the queen, the mentor, the entertainer, the actor, the athlete, the tyrant, the trickster, the peacemaker, the prostitute, the psychopath, villain, vampire, shapeshifter, right? We've seen all of these things around us out in the world. And so we get to create who we are. We get to choose which parts of ourselves we're going to bring up. And even if you don't feel like you have one of these right now, but you want to employ more of that in your life, at any given moment, you can pull that part of you out of you and make it stronger and bring it forward. And so that's sort of connects us to the exercise. Step one, I would say, is make a list of all of the archetypes that you feel you are using now. Make a list of the archetypes that you are predominantly going to that you may need less of. Make a list of the archetypes you are not going to that you need to employ more of, as well as the archetypes that you hear and you think, oh, I wish I had that. That means that there's something in you that does have that you have that within you, you have that capability there. That's your soul asking you to bring more of that out. And so make a list of the ones that you want to be more of, that you want to start to learn more about, to call forward within yourself, to create. And you can reinvent yourself at any time, and now we are in the process of reinventing ourselves, so now's the time to start to bring those things forward. And then, as far as the exercise or sort of the homework that would go with this, we want to take a look at least the four main archetypes: the warrior, the magician, the lover, and the king or queen. And we want to understand how they operate and how they help us solve problems. So, think about a situation in your life that you would like to find a resolution for, a challenge that you're going through right now. And look for each archetype within your body. And so ask, where in my body is the lover? And I'm not going to tell you where mine are because it may be different for each of you, and I don't want to taint your perspective on your own body and your own relationship with your archetypes. But find the lover in your body. Ask the question, lover, where are you within my body? And then that part of your body that calls forward your focus. So it may be a throb, it may be a tingle, it may be an itch, right? There's a part of your body that will speak to you, and that is where the lover is responding from. And then put your hand on that part of your body and ask the question, what do I need to call forward in this moment to solve this problem? So lover, where lover and body parts, what do I need to call forward from this place, from the place of the lover, from the place of this body? What do I need to call forward to solve this problem? And the lover will give you an answer. That part of your body will give you an answer. And then ask the question, what do I need to employ that the lover would employ? As far as strengths, skills, gifts, I mean, it's a very open-ended question, but what do I need to employ to solve this problem? And then go through each of the archetypes. Find the warrior in your body. Where is the warrior? What part of the body is associated with the warrior? And then ask the warrior, what do I need to do to solve this problem? What aspect of the warrior do I need to employ to solve this problem? What message does this part of my body have to solve this problem? And then do that again for the Magician and for your King or Queen. And then, of course, feel free to bring in whatever archetypes you want to bring in. If you have one that you feel you're predominantly operating in that is not on this list, absolutely make sure that you consult that one. And then I would suggest consulting the archetypes that you want to be more of that you don't currently feel that you are employing. And make sure that you find that in the body. Get to know that aspect of yourself. Have conversations with these archetypes, these parts of your bodies, as if they're other beings, as if they're your friend, right? They have messages for you. Ask them questions and make sure that you are allowing space and time for them to respond. This is not a one-sided conversation. Nobody likes a one-sided conversation. You're not going to get the relationship that you need, which needs to be that 50-50 give and take, if it's a one-sided conversation. So make sure that you're allowing them to ask you questions, to tell you, I haven't trusted you, or you haven't listened to me, or, right? So allow them to express their concern, as well as you asking questions and expressing your concern. So yeah, I think that's about it around archetypes. I would love to hear which archetypes you are employing. This is a fun one. I absolutely love to play with this. And this will directly connect to tomorrow, where we talk more about our bodies. We have multiple bodies, more than just one. And so you may find that maybe your warrior lives on your shoulder because it's part of your emotional body. But we'll talk more about that tomorrow. So I love you. I will see you on the next video. Have a good evening. Take care. Namaste, my loves.